I am also
Okay, now I
recording.
can hear you guys. And I'm recording. Ba, ba, ba. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 637th episode of the Pokemon Podcast. It's super effective. Hello from my Korean hotel room. My name is Steve. I'm here with Hannah.
I am also here. I just found my screwdriver set so I can put my Pokemon posters up this week.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
Bobby
After
also
moving.
here.
My Pokemon posters have been up, so I'm good. Over here, no
I
screwdriver
moved.
necessary.
I have an excuse.
That's true. Very true.
Sorry for the lighting or whatever is happening here. This is the best I have at 9 a.m. on Sunday. After this, I'm going to play day 3 of Safari Zone Incheon. But I think it's 5 p.m. for you too?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, on Saturday.
So
As opposed to 5 p.m. on Friday when you got confused with the days trying to schedule this.
Yeah, that was a little. I woke up and it was all solved by the time I looked at my phone. But I was like, "What is going on? Why do I have 15 messages from you guys?"
meanwhile, I'm streaming and I'm like, why are there 20 messages? What the heck? It's just you two talking about something. Okay, so we'll get the disclosures out of the way real quick. So Niantic paid for my flight to Jakarta and my hotel in Jakarta, and they paid for my flight out of Jakarta. I decided to take that flight out of Jakarta to South Korea. And that's where that disclosure ends. Flight, hotel, flight. For South Korea, Niantic paid for nothing, although keep in mind I said they did pay for me to leave Jakarta. I just chose to go to South Korea and not back home. So you could say maybe they paid for me to get here. So I am responsible for my own flight and hotel in South Korea. I just want that disclosure to be there. But the Niantic did put me in touch with the city of Incheon's tourism department, and their tourism department were giving some money to it doesn't have to be like a Pokemon Go YouTuber. They're just looking for content creators, YouTube, celebrities, whatever, to encourage tourism to Incheon, because Incheon is the third biggest city in South Korea, Seoul being number 1, and they want more people to come here because everyone lands in Incheon's airport and then directly go to Seoul. But Seoul's a cool city. So part of the tourism thing is ultimately whatever the tourism department is paying just pays for my hotel, ultimately, is what they end up giving me. So that's cool. That's the disclosure. And then I pretty much have to pay my own flight home, which isn't the cheapest, but hey, I don't know.
You got to go to both of these really cool events.
Yeah. That's true.
So there's my disclosures. Before we get to talking about City Safari in Jakarta and Safari Zone in South Korea, because they were very different events, we got some Pokemon Sleep news. And Shocker. And there will be finally a new area added to the game called the Old Gold Power Plant, and that will debut on, that is not very easy to say, that will debut on October 2nd at 3 p.m. So you can use your easy travel ticket if you want to switch to it. Last time when Lapis Lakeside came out, there was the app said different sleep styles. Pokemon.com said different sleep styles. Sarumi had something different. I'm just going to go off PokemonSleep.net, the official Pokemon Sleep website. They're saying this time you need 340 sleep styles to unlock Old Gold Power Plant.
Makes sense.
And dozing will give you the Grubbin line, snoozing will give you the Shinx line, and slumbering will give you the Aeron line. And Snorlax's favorite berries will be Greppa, which is electric. Bluck. Is that how you say it? Bluck?
Bluck. Yeah, Bluck.
Which is ghost and Bellew, which is steel.
I don't feel like that's how it's pronounced for some reason, but sure.
How would you say it?
Kind of like blue, but
well, it is spelled like the city Bellevue without the V, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you're right. Maybe Bellew.
Bellew.
I don't know. Sure.
Are you? Well, this is weird. Hannah and I've been playing since day one. But I've been premium since day one. Hannah has been freemium, and then Bobby just started playing. Not even like 6 months in.
Yeah, it was March. It was like 2 weeks before Raikou. So
I think I have 420 something sleep styles, so I have more than enough for power plant. What are you guys sitting at?
I don't know how to check the exact number, but I just hit the last goal, so probably have enough.
Yeah, that's the last goal is 340, right?
That would be my guess.
Or no, is it just every 50? Because like it's like 240 was what it took for Lapis, and then 290 is the next goal. And I know this because I'm at 278. So I'm 12 from the next goal, which is 290. And 50 more would be the 340 I would need to get to the power plant. So
if you just hit. Oh wait, that does not show you. I don't know where you go to see your sleep styles. I think you click on your profile picture.
I'm doing the math. Just a second.
Yes, if you just click on your profile picture, it'll show you.
Okay.
I'm at 433 out of 572.
Gosh.
Okay. The next goal button will just show you how many you have until the next goal.
Not once you have reached all of the goals, which is apparently 290. So I am actually pretty far still. Because I have not been premium and I have been not totally keeping up every single night. Because when I was moving and things were chaotic, I lost track.
And you're moving like every 2 weeks, so that's understandable.
But maybe less off track now that Apple Watch and other smart watch devices can track your sleep.
Yep.
That's new as well, right?
This is now my favorite way to play Pokemon Sleep.
Yeah, that was shadow dropped out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did announce the 2.0 update, which we have notes here for, but you would think that like Apple Watch, Fitbit, Samsung, did they call it the Galaxy Watch or the Samsung Watch? That got added just on a random like Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was great. I saw the announcement and I immediately switched Pokemon Sleep back over from my tablet to my phone so that I could use my watch. Just immediately.
Yeah, Hannah's been sleeping with
hesitation.
with a 20-inch iPad under her pillow.
Not the big one. But honestly, truly, using the smartwatch to play this game is far easier, for me at least, than having to remember to go into the app and press the button, or having to remember to find wherever my plus is, whether I left it in a bag after going and playing Pokemon GO and I don't want to get out of bed to go get it. The smartwatch is already on my wrist, and I already used it for sleep tracking. And with the new operating system, at least of the Apple Watch, I think that it should automatically track sleep even without you having to do anything.
Wait, can you?
I don't know for sure if that'll work.
How you? What does the app look like? What are you pressing? Are you pressing something to wake up, go to sleep?
Kind of. So it is one of the focus modes in iOS, in watchOS. You turn on the sleep focus mode, and that tells your watch that you are going to go to sleep soon, and then it will start sleep tracking. That is at least what it says in the instructions for how to use Pokemon Sleep. Now, this may be different with the new watchOS update that was just released. And I'm probably going to test that out tonight because they have a new feature where you can track sleep without even having to go into the sleep focus mode. But yes, basically just press a thing on the watch, and it tracks sleep all night, and you just turn it off again in the morning.
So you're not even hitting a Pokemon Sleep button.
Nope.
Not at all. No, it's just so I've been doing the same thing. I'd never used a sleep focus mode before because I do sleep with my watch, but it's for the alarm typically because I like having like it just vibrates your wrist, to wake you up.
The haptic alarm.
Yeah, so I never used the sleep focus mode before. So I set one of those up and I just set the bedtime to be like the same time I had my bedtime set in Pokemon Sleep. And so at that time, it just goes into the sleep focus mode. I might not go to sleep at that time, but the sleep focus mode like starts up at that time. But then it does track when I actually do go to sleep. So if I go to sleep 45 minutes later, it doesn't start tracking the sleep at my sleep focus mode's time. It actually starts tracking the sleep when I'm actually have fallen asleep. So, and then that just integrates with Apple Health. And then when I open up Pokemon Sleep the next morning, I do the, synchronize button, except now it'll say like, do you want to synchronize with your Go++ or do you want to synchronize with Apple Health? And I can choose. And so you can do both of them. Like I could technically have the Go++ set up as well. And then in the morning, you can just choose which one you want to have it synchronize with. The difference is I can see how much time I'm going to get for sleep in Pokemon Sleep before actually synchronizing it, because you can look at it in Apple Health and you can see how much sleep it says you've tracked for the night. So you can see it beforehand, versus like with the Go++, you can't see it until you actually synchronize, right? Like that point is when you'd see how much sleep it tracked for you. So this morning it was a little weird because it told me I woke up before I did with my watch. Like the Apple Health said I woke up like an hour before I did. I don't know. It might have been the fact that my kid came in, like was jumping on the bed when I 7:45.
Honestly, I think any of the sleep trackers that work with Pokemon Sleep would have counted that as being awake.
Probably. So that was, it tracked an hour less than I actually slept, but yeah, I like it. I like using the watch though. It's just not having to remember to push anything.
If you were to fully disconnect the Go++, so only have the option that says sync with Apple Watch or Apple Health, then you would lose the Pikachu. He would like go away.
Oh, I haven't even thought about that.
I think that is correct, because I haven't connected my plus in a while, so I lost Pikachu a while ago.
Oh, good.
And you would want
think about
the
that.
Pikachu for the old power plant.
Pikachu is helpful, yes, especially for the old power plant.
That's true. So yeah, my Go++ is still connected. And now I feel like, do I need to every once in a while like
I think
use
that as long as it
stays
stays connected, it should be fine. I believe my Pikachu left when I transferred from my phone to my tablet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So the 2.0 update does say there will be maintenance on October 1st from, they're saying 1330 to 18. Please note the time period is different than the previous ones. So make sure to feed your Pikachu lunch before 1:30, or whatever time that is. Wait, so, I think that's UTC time. So that would be.
It is.
Is that 6:30 or 7:30 for like Central Time?
It would be. Well, so it's. I think it's 11:30 because for West Coast it's 9:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So it would be 11:30 p.m. Central Time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it is different, but okay. Got it. So I don't know.
Okay with that. Anytime past 6 p.m. because it used to always be for like a while it was 6 p.m. and it was like, so West Coast time it was 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And it was like West Coast can't feed dinner. Like if you go to bed at like 9 p.m. or like 10 p.m., which is not a problem for me.
You would have to stay up super late to feed
you have to stay up
the
later
Snorlax
to feed dinner. You had no chance to.
Which I did at least twice.
Exactly. So it's good.
So now like the Alaska time zone is misses it.
No, Hawaii. Actually Hawaii. It's going to be 6:30 in Hawaii when it starts.
Okay.
They can
still get a half hour. This was my whole argument was like, just make it 15 minutes or 30 minutes later so that you can feed dinner.
There will be, we already said 340 sleep styles to unlock. Additional 2 new sleep style dex goals will be added. Preparation for the gold power plant debut. This is the 2.0 update. A new ingredient is being added, the rousing coffee or
rousing coffee. And
then 6 new recipes, probably using said coffee. You can also now use multiple ingredient tickets once this update happens instead of using one at a time. They're going to fix the back button, so it makes the back button take you directly to the home screen when you press and hold it down. And then they're fixing some text. They're fixing some other small bugs. So for like a 2.0 update, it doesn't seem that big. You would think like 2.0 would be like a huge, like, oh my gosh, second version of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I felt like they could have just like saved the Apple Watch stuff for the 2.0 and that would have been part of it. And then I felt like that would have been like so big. Not saying that the update is bad, but it's just like you shadow drop which is a cool shadow drop to be like, here's watch support. And then a week later, like 2.0, but we're not really adding anything.
They're adding a whole new island.
Yeah, but they did that before without it being like a 2.0 update when they added Lapis, right? So I'll say I appreciate that this company, that Select Button is doing this in a way that they did shadow drop the Apple Watch or the smartwatch thing. And it wasn't like a big, like, this is 2.0. They were just like, Tuesday, you all of a sudden have a new way that you can track sleep.
Yeah, because that's not a benefit
really cool
for all of the users. It's only a benefit for a subset of the users. So I kind of like that it's not a key focus of the theoretically big 2.0 update.
That's true. I guess the 2.0 update does really help all users, except us who don't have 340 sleep styles yet, so I can't go to that island. But the new ingredient, and I believe the spawns of Shinx, Grubbin, and Aeron, there will be a point in time where they're also on other islands, right?
Yep.
Like Greengrass or something.
Shinx, Aeron, and Grubbin will appear on Greengrass for a 2-week-long event. You will get Aeron, Shinx, Grubbin incense by completing the missions. The event will run from Monday, October 7th through October 21st. Same with the missions. You will go to either Greengrass Isle or the old power plant, whichever one you want. And then slightly greater appearance of Aeron, Shinx, Grubbin on that. I don't know. When Lapis did the same thing when it debuted, and I want to say that the people who went to Lapis for the event, I want to say they said they regretted it because Lapis was so hard. They just wish they would have went back to Greengrass to.
Yes, that's definitely what happened. Lapis was too hard. You weren't able to get the sleep styles you wanted. You weren't able to catch the Pokemon that you wanted to see.
Right.
So
it's understandable. I
could, if you're like a hardcore player, I could see people like myself. I'm probably going to switch to Gold Power Plant when it comes out to get the 5% for the first week, and just to see it. And I'll probably do Greengrass those 2 weeks, but at the end, like on Sunday night, I will easy ticket back to Power Plant to then force the 5% to go there. Because I know, like, if you complete Greengrass, it'll like give 5% to another area, but it's probably going to give it to Tundra because my Tundra, I never go to Tundra, so I would rather have like free 10% to Power Plant just after the Greengrass. And I have so many easy travel tickets that it's fine. Okay, well that's the sleep stuff. Before we get to Jakarta or Incheon, TCG Live Pocket is available in early access. I don't know what the word they're using for it. Soft launch, I think, is maybe what they said, in New Zealand. Bobby, do you want to tell us what's happening there?
To be clear, I have not played in New Zealand in this game.
Okay.
But I do know that the game is working. I mean, it's fully working in New Zealand, and if you are in New Zealand, you are able to download the game and open packs, battle other people, do the wonder pick stuff. Like, the game seems to be in its entirety is working in New Zealand as like as you said, like an early access, or I think you're using the term soft launch maybe.
Guess what?
But yeah,
comicbook.com and PokeBeach have used both the terms soft launch.
Yeah, and I do believe that Joe Sarabee or Sarabee Joe, whichever.
Yeah,
we're
he
calling
lives
him,
in New Zealand now. Apparently, I didn't know.
He's
I
tracked the
thought,
entire game. So
I thought
This is
Joe
not the
was
first time.
a proud UK resident. I didn't know he just suddenly moved to New Zealand.
yeah, I mean, I will say that the Pokemon, I want to say Sleep, the Pokemon Pocket like Twitter account is kind of like egging it on. They did say like, welcome, people in New Zealand and New Zealand, like New Zealand residents or something like that in their tweet. So they seem to be egging on people
They
doing
seem to be
this, but
happy that people are excited about this game.
yeah, I mean, it's cool that they're getting it early.
Yeah,
You know.
I this is not because like I'm a Pokemon creator and I'm like upset that I'm not playing it. I think you could take it that way, because like when like Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield or Legends came out, all of a sudden people are like switching over to their Australian accounts or their Japanese accounts to play the game like 14 hours early or something like that. And you could debate there's value in that as a content creator, to be like, well, I can get my content up like 10 hours earlier than everyone else, and then maybe my views will be better, or maybe I'll make more money. It probably does work for some people. It doesn't work for other people, right? Like I've seen so many small content creators like switch to Japan to get it early, and like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't like suddenly like explode them into like the next Pokemon or the next Ninja or something just because they like started playing 10 hours early. Right. But anyways, I just dislike non-worldwide releases for games. I just like Destiny, or there's a bunch of games, but I'll use Destiny for example. When like Destiny 2 came out, it was like 1 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Japan time, like 7 a.m. Like it came out at the same time for everyone. Mm-hmm. And that's like a cool feeling. Like everyone's playing at the same time versus like, oh, Japan's playing Arceus, I have to wait 10 more hours. Like that just kind of sucks.
Yeah. You get to feel like part of this like worldwide community when it's all happening at the same time. And especially with how prominent social media is nowadays, you get to be a part of that, right? If we're all either scrolling on something and watching other people play this game that we have no access to, and there's a little bit of like, well, I want to be able to do that, or like, but I want to be able to be part of the conversation or part of what's going on right now.
It helps keep the hype going to keep everyone in sync.
Yeah, exactly.
And I again, speaking as like so that was my personal opinion, but like speaking as a content creator, I don't want to like, I think there's a difference between like posting an early preview, right? I like played the game early. I played for like 2 hours. I answered as many questions as I could that people had about it. And I'm excited. I think, people who listen to the podcast or watch on YouTube, they're excited. But if I was like VPN over, all of a sudden I live in New Zealand and like I've completed the game, that other people maybe not tech savvy enough or don't want to do that, or like they're like, oh, I still have to wait, this is annoying, or like there's just something about it where it's like, I don't want to say it doesn't I don't want to say it feels unfair, but it does feel like like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
no,
am I
I, know, I
saying?
see. I know what you mean, and I think part of it is how early it is. So it's it's over. I mean, I guess as this podcast will be released, it will be a month until the game is released worldwide. But even with the releases that happen just on the same day, but New Zealand happens to be, in my case, about 17 hours ahead. So like when Legends came out or when Scarlet Violet came out, it's 17 hours. 17 hours ahead of me. That's fine, right? It's like that weekend everyone is a part of the conversation. By the end of that weekend everyone's a part of the conversation, and you are kind of all on this global level, all playing the game together, and that's fine. But this is a month ahead of time. That's a lot of time between the rest of the world playing a game and one place playing the game. And I mean, I know there was like early access stuff with, say, like Pokemon Go, right? I mean, there was like a beta. There was like a whole, I remember that before the game came out. But I don't know. Part of it makes me think, why do they feel like they needed to do an early access a month early for this? Because I mean, let's say like when TCG Live did their early access thing, right? That was because they wanted a lot of feedback, and it was necessary. As we all saw kind of play out. This, just based on your review and other creators' reviews when they actually did go and kind of play the game and get an idea, get first impressions and everything, it didn't spell out like they would then want to do a month-long early access, where I feel like what they're going to be looking for with this is a lot of feedback on the game that maybe I don't know. It feels like a weird place to have a month-long early access to me, but maybe
I mean, a month-long
not
early
used to
access
it.
feels kind of weird for a Pokemon mobile game to begin with. I feel like they are not usually this long. Even
Right.
with Pokemon Go
Like,
releasing new features and things, I don't think it's usually a month ahead of time. I could be wrong.
again, Pokemon Go does like some early stuff in New Zealand, and it's necessary. We all see the reasons that they do early access stuff in New
Yes.
Zealand, and I feel bad for New Zealand because they do end up getting hit with a lot of bugs and a lot of missed opportunities, and they have to keep getting repeat events over there and things like that with Pokemon Go specifically because things get messed up. I feel for that. But I don't know. Whenever I hear that there's this early access, it usually, you start to see why there is early access. And from what I've seen so far, it doesn't look like there's really any issues with this game. It's just a lot of people saying this is awesome.
They could have wanted to make sure it was stable even with that many new players playing.
True. That's true.
And just see how it does with however many players there are in New Zealand and however many players there are VPNing into New Zealand combined before releasing it to the rest of the world.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like pre X and Y, where I was, we were still doing the podcast pre X and Y. So, Black and White came out in Japan, and then everyone else had to wait 8-9 months for it to come out to that. And so you're like looking at these Pokemon and you're like, this looks so cool. Obviously there was a different time back then. Social media there was no TikTok back then, right? There was
it was barely Twitter.
Like it was the norm to be like, okay, we just got to wait for this game to get localized and come to America and everything. And then X and Y, like everyone was getting it ultimately the same time. I think technically like Australia got it like 2 days later, but like the same time frame. And now it's like what you said earlier, Bobby, like Mr. Joe Sarabee is done. Don't know how much money he spent in the 2 days to get it done, but he is done with the whole game. He has all the cards, which, spoiler, I without even playing it, because I don't have it. I just said I don't have it. You spend a lot of money to then open all those cards and get everything, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's no secrets. If you want to go out there, you can see all of those cards. Just like before Black and White came to the United States, you can see all 156 Pokemon before they come out. And I think there is a little bit of, I know the comments are going to be like, well, just don't look. But when you're scrolling on TikTok or Twitter or whatever, sometimes that stuff pops up. I didn't know there was like a Mew card. Never saw that. They didn't tell us about it. There's a Mew card that's really cool. I don't know. Now all of you know there's a Mew card. You don't. I guess you don't know what it looks like. I know what it looks like because it just appeared on my Twitter feed, and I was like, oh, I didn't know this was a thing.
Exactly. And now it's appeared on my Twitter feed 47 times or on Threads, because this is the way Threads work. So I clicked on one, probably on accident, and now every post is the Mew card because Threads thinks I want to see it.
So it would have been cool if like everyone would have been able to experience that at the same time of like, oh my gosh, there's almost like, you know, in the DLC, like it did feel like there was a full week of people trying to figure out how to get Meloetta to appear. And that was like slightly fun to see people be like, wow, this is what I tried and that didn't work.
Yeah. And
it's like weird.
Yeah. I feel like how this kind of sounds too is it almost sounds like we're sitting here like this, I want to be playing it right now, right? And like the thing is, like, three of us could absolutely do that. Like we all have the ability to, one, set up a New Zealand Apple account, 2, VPN. We all know how to do this, right? Like the three of us all know how to do this.
We literally ran VPN ads on the show at one point.
So like, yes, we are aware that we could absolutely do this and play the game. But it's a little bit more than that. It's just the idea that there are a lot of people who, one, can't do that, 2, might won't do that or just wouldn't know how to do that. And I don't know. It's still something about it that is definitely weird to me. And I don't mind seeing the stuff I'm seeing. That's fine. Like, cool. People are playing it. Great. But it just seems weird that it is, you know, in one spot for an entire month before even from a marketing standpoint. Like when it is true you're getting a lot of hype up before the game comes out, but you've kind of now lost your like hype of the release when it actually comes out.
The people who are going to be generating the most hype have already generated all of that hype by the time the game actually comes out. Not all of the people, but clearly a lot of people like Joe have been getting all of their Pokemon Pocket stuff out of the way now, and what's gonna happen when the game actually comes out for a lot of people?
You know, and even in that way, in that sense, I don't blame Joe for doing that, because for what he does, there is a bunch of people who are playing the game right now.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of people who are gonna go to Sarumi to be like,
Joe was maybe not the best example,
you know. So like he is, you know, that's his like job, and so it kind of makes sense that he like got it all together, and now there's a place that people who are playing the game for the next month can go to. I don't know. There's not a whole lot to like research in the same way of like a Pokemon game where you would look for like different you know
can
areas
aim
and things,
to get it. You can hope you'll pull a specific card.
Yeah, or just even like see mechanics and things like that you know you may not be like right up front and explained that easily in the game, things like that. So I get it, like, and that's fine. But again, it's just weird on the side of them releasing it at all a month early. Seems odd, just because I don't feel like it's typical of Pokemon mobile game. Like again, I don't like was Unite released early? Was Masters released early? Was
I don't think
Duel
Masters was
released early. Like
I don't think Masters was. I'm pretty sure Unite did have
Unite
a good extended period.
Yeah, they may have.
I think Unite had early in China, didn't it not?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did.
Okay.
I think like,
but that I
remember when Pokemon Go came out early. The thing about Pokemon Go was your account was going to be reset, and they were resetting accounts almost I could be wrong, but Pokemon Go is 8 years old. I can barely remember last week, but I want to say there was multiple reset periods of like June 30th where we're resetting everyone's account, June 5th where we're resetting everyone's account again. Like they did reset multiple times before release, and I guess like if they turned off the store and they said, okay, this game's going to be out for 30 days to test things, you can't spend anything because we are resetting your accounts, I think you would see significantly less people make a VPN and switch over because they would be like, oh, why would I play? My account's going to get reset. But I could see people say like, that's okay. I just want to play with the game for like an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm cool with it like resetting. It's just like very weird to be like jump through all of these loopholes to give us $200 and now you're done with the game, and when it comes out in 30 days there's nothing for you to do because we're not adding anything different.
Right. Yeah, and people are spending money. I mean, people are spending a lot of money at this point, and they can spend money, they can buy the premium pass, they can do all the things that the game will allow people to do come day one. So that is happening.
I think the one of the reasons why I think it's weird, we talked about a lot of reasons, is I think I feel for the free to play players the most, because that's like 60 free booster packs they could have gotten, two a day for 30
That's a long
days.
period of time to miss out while
So
everybody
for somebody
who is playing is building their collection.
Yeah, so for somebody who maybe is not tech savvy, don't have the resources,
or just doesn't want to.
Yeah, and they're really excited for this game. It's like, well, that sucks. That's like 60 booster packs you're not getting compared to somebody else who, and no shade to anyone who lives in New Zealand. You guys deserve something. You definitely deserve something early, for sure. The way that Niantic has treated you, I'm glad this other Pokemon game is maybe treating you better.
That is true. Also, on the side of like terms of service and stuff, when it comes to like Apple, at least I'm just gonna say Apple because I'm an Apple person. So I'm going to go with Apple when I talk about these things. I don't know what the terms of service say about setting up an account. I don't know that there would be an issue with that on Apple's side, but I don't know. Like, I don't know what Apple says about setting up an account in another country, because you do have to do that. And I've seen that a lot with a lot of things that aren't related to games. I've seen it with apps as well and with other things. But I don't know what the terms of service say for Apple, or I guess Google, for like setting up an account in another country that you're not actually a resident of. Again, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. I have no idea. So
I would be more interested to know if the Pocket terms of service is against it, because my guess is they would be, considering how you are going to be able to trade cards in different languages.
But then they shouldn't be tweeting to like egg people onto doing it.
Don't expect, even if lawyers say
I know
that this is something people shouldn't do, that doesn't mean that everybody at the company is going to be right in lockstep with the lawyers.
I know, but they're Pokemon things are pretty locked. Like when it's Pokemon related stuff, I feel like that's pretty locked down before they're making tweets and posts and things about stuff like that.
I mean, like, technically when you play Pokemon Go, you're agreeing to only play the game on one device and have one account. And I literally on my stream yesterday, there's a Korean guy I traded with was like, you normally play with 8 accounts, but today I'm only playing with 4. And he has like 3 phones, and one of the phones had like 2 accounts stacked on each other. I was like, dang, that's kind of cool, actually.
That's always cool to see. Like,
those are some of the most famous photos of Pokemon Go players.
I guess my question is, somebody who I've had like an Apple account since I've been like 16 or whatever. It's been the same Apple account. I could see that I downloaded like the beer app when that was like one of the first apps where you like pour it, right? Like I could go back through my Apple history and see the lighter app where all it does is like make a little flame on your phone, right? Like I remember this. I don't. So if you make a whole nother Apple account, a New Zealand Apple account to then get Pocket, and you're putting money there, are you then stuck to keep putting money there? Because you can't transfer it to a different Apple ID.
No, I'm almost 100% sure it's a new account completely.
So you're forever locked into two accounts going forward.
I don't know on the Google side, but on the Apple side, I am fairly certain that's true. You have to, because you can't have an Apple ID in multiple countries. And I don't know how it works if you move. Like if I move to Europe, I don't know how that works. But my understanding is you can't like switch back and forth between. You can't keep switching back and forth between countries.
That would just like bother me. Like all my transactions are under one Apple ID, but for a whatever it would be, this game, a different app, to then be like, oh, I have to like switch Apple ID to then put $100 in to then buy booster packs and then switch back. Like that just seems annoying.
I don't know if transferring game data would work to fix that. I'm trying to think.
I don't know if you could transfer the game data to then get away from that Apple ID.
Yeah. You might be able to, depending on how it's set up.
That's the YouTube video somebody should be making.
Yeah, seriously. Because I don't know the full answer to that. I will say, even if it is like possible, it is not easy. It's a complicated process when you are switching between countries and things like that with your account. And I can imagine, because there are apps that are not in other countries and things like that as well. So I don't, even if it is possible to do it, I imagine it is a complicated process to do it.
I thought you looked into this, Bobby. I thought you knew step by step.
I do not know the step by step of switching. I knew a step by step of setting a new Apple ID in a different country, but I don't know about like your current one, because I wouldn't want to try to mess with my current Apple ID, because that in itself, you start messing with Apple ID and iCloud and everything that's connected, and I don't want to end up with like my contacts downloading 60 times or whatever. Like I don't want to end up in that loophole.
Yeah. It can mess stuff up for you, and it can mess stuff up for anybody you're connected with in any way.
Yeah, I don't want to be re-added to the text group 70 times because
don't worry. There's like 3 versions of me in our text group because I have like 4 SIM cards going active.
That's always fun.
So when I turn back on my US SIM card, I'm going to have like 700 texts from myself from my Korean SIM card.
We have a list. I know there's like a portion of our chat where it's just Steve joined the conversation, Steve left the conversation like 25 times in a row. It's like, what happened?
SIM card issues happened.
Yep.
I have a lot of SIM cards traveling. Okay. Speaking of traveling, let's take a break, and then when we get back, we'll talk about the Indonesian event, which I thought was a Pokemon GO event, but was actually not a Pokemon GO event. So we will be right back. And we are back from our break. Let's start off with Indonesia. So the difference here is Indonesia was a city safari experience, and Incheon is a safari zone experience, and they are pretty different. I'm still shocked that the two exist
at the same time. Yeah,
at the same time. I've been to 3 safari zones. I went to the St. Louis one. I went to Goyang, which was also in South Korea, and then obviously Incheon. And the things that I guess I didn't realize because of the city safari, I'm going to try to lay out the differences, is the safari zone is all in a park that you're playing in. And from what I remember, there's no egg bonuses, there's no raid lover bonuses.
Okay.
but it is. I think I said this for Goyang. I will probably say this again like 2 years later. It is like a glorified community day. Like shiny odds are increased, but not as good as community day, but also not as good as like a Go Fest.
A full Go Fest, yeah.
Okay.
And you like a community day, you are probably picking a park to walk in and then do that park. And for community day, that's only like 3 hours. And some people don't even play all 3 hours. For this, it's actually 9 hours. It's I thought it was going to be 8. There's a lot of things I thought that was going to happen. But the difference here compared to Goyang or compared to St. Louis, Missouri, is they added on the city experience. So again, you pick one day in the park, and then your other 2 days can be anywhere in Incheon. And Incheon, like I said, is the third biggest city in South Korea. So there's plenty of places you could go and play. I can't go to Seoul, which is definitely a bummer for people who have never been to Seoul. Because Seoul is not Incheon. Now the city experience in Indonesia, Safari, Pokemon Safari, City
Safari?
City
No.
Safari,
No?
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
City Safari is you can play anywhere in Jakarta, which now you're like, what, didn't you just say you could play anywhere in Incheon? Yes. But there was no designated place to play at all. There wasn't like, please go here.
Okay.
There was one in Barcelona, there was one in Mexico City, there was one in Seoul that I went to, and I really praised the Seoul one last year. There's a lot of Korea here. I praised the Seoul one last year because I when I went, I was like, I would like to do all the touristy things in Seoul that I didn't do the first time, because the first time I was in Goyang, so I had to keep going out to Goyang to play. And whoever was in charge of whatever Niantic employee was in charge of it, which I actually met that guy, super nice, they laid out the EV Pokestops to then like take you through of the things you wanted to see in Seoul as like a tourist. And so there was 3 locations ideally they wanted you to start at. You didn't have to start at those. And then you walked the city and were like, oh, this was on my thing to I wanted to see this. I wanted to see this. I wanted to see this. I was told in like Barcelona and Mexico City that it wasn't the same treatment. Whoever was in charge of that just kind of scattered the stops, which kind of maybe unveils how Niantic has different people in charge of different regions, and maybe some people care about their job a lot more. I did go to Barcelona after City Safari, and the EV stops are still there. I don't know if people know this, but like anytime there's a City Safari, the stops will stay up for a full year. And so if you travel to Mexico City or Barcelona after the fact, you could pay $1 to do the research. And I don't know why I air quoted that. But you could still see the EV stops. So when I was in Barcelona, the EV stops, I think, were placed pretty well, because anytime I got to a touristy thing, there was an EV stop there. Like if I got somewhere where I was like, this seems very touristy, I would open Pokemon Go and for sure there would be an EV stop there. So I've only been told from people who went to Mexico City that it was just kind of scattered. There was no EV stops in Incheon because that's a safari zone, not a city safari. So there's the difference there. There's no EV stops that guide you. So there's no safari EVs. Skidoo was at both. And then in Jakarta, even if the EV stops were placed where you would want to go, I don't understand, but also understand that I now get it. That city is not walkable. So you have a like explore this city when there are no sidewalks. There's
someone mentioned that, didn't I feel like
somebody did
said
mention that in the Slack, and I was
someone said,
I was like,
this is surprising.
I was like, you're crazy. This can't be possible. And then, okay, my first night in Jakarta, I like solo traveling a lot because I hate bringing like a partner with me and then feeling bad that like I have to work. Like I have to get up early. I have to put this backpack on. I gotta go film this content, and I don't want you to feel like a solo traveler or like I left you in the hotel or something. Because like I like being a solo traveler. I like being by myself, but I don't want to put that on somebody else. But I also like to experience different countries, or I like to travel with people too. Is right to like share those experiences.
Yeah.
But also, it's nice to have somebody there to be like, let's get lost together. It's not as bad because like we can figure that out. So when I couldn't figure out the train system when I got to the airport, and I was like, this just doesn't make sense. Every Apple Map, Google Map, everything is saying it's going to take 2 hours to get to my hotel from the train station. And the Uber, which they call Grab, but I'm just going to call it Uber for the sake of this conversation. The Uber was 45 minutes. And I was like, 2 hours on the train or 45 minutes? And I was like, what's the price difference? The train was $6. I was like, okay, that makes sense for public transportation. And the Uber was $12. And I was like, this doesn't seem right. In New York, to get like 20 minutes from LGA to my hotel is $100 in an Uber. I know because I've done it before.
The
Usually it's because
rate.
it's usually because the Pokemon company brings me out, but they give me like Uber vouchers, so I never actually pay the $100. So I was like, I would like to just get to my hotel, right? I've been flying for 20 hours. I guess I'll spend the $12. And it worked. It was a 45-minute Uber ride. It was $12 exactly. I got to my hotel. I got very lucky. They gave me an upgraded room because like literally no one booked that hotel. I can tell you why, because that was the wrong area to book a hotel in. That's cool. So I purposely booked this hotel near this huge mall, and I thought to myself, if it's raining, huge mall, great place to play Pokemon Go, right? If I need food, mall. If I need clothes, mall, right?
Steve only thinks of the Mall of America when he thinks of mall, so that's what he's going off of.
That's your frame of reference
when he thinks mall. So
yeah. So I get settled in the hotel, change, I go out, and I don't know how to get out of like the valet. Like there, like you know how you walk to the front of the hotel where cars drop off?
Yeah.
To the right, there's just road. There's no sidewalk. It just goes out of a security gate that only cars can leave out of the security gate. And then the left where we came in, there was also security gates. I don't know if people know this. If when you go to Indonesia, almost every hotel and every mall, from my experience, they're there for 4 days, they have to security check every car or every person going into something. So like when the car pulled up to drop me off, they check the trunk, they check the glove box, they check the back seat, and then they let the car in. And then when I got dropped off, all my bags had to go through x-ray machines, and then I could go into the hotel. So anytime I went into my hotel, I had to get x-rayed. Anytime I went into any of the malls, I had to get x-rayed. It's just because there was, I believe, some terrorism like 10 years ago, like that stacked up, and so they started putting these security checks in measure to keep people there safe.
Got it.
That's cool. Like security check weird the first time because you're like, oh no, what did I do wrong? Why are they checking the trunk? You just get used to it, so it's fine. So so I go to the left to like leave the hotel area, which you're like, it shouldn't be that hard to leave this hotel area. And there is a sidewalk, but Google Maps is telling me to go around. And I try to go that way, and the sidewalk ends, and there's just this huge roundabout. And when I say huge roundabout, imagine like 6-lane roundabout of people going around, and I'm like, I can't cross. There's nowhere, there's no
Wow.
sidewalk anymore. There's no crosswalk. There's no sign. So I have to walk the opposite direction. I want to stress the mall is literally across the street. I can see it from my hotel room. But the way Google Maps is telling me, I can't go that way because it's just a huge multi-lane roundabout, and no one is stopping. And so I have to walk 4 blocks down, then cross to an intersection where I'm waiting because there's buses going, and then wait, and then cross again, and then walk 3 lanes up. And then I don't even know how to get into the mall because the mall is set up like it will say no walking, only car. So like I can see that entrance to the mall, but I'm not in a car and I'm not allowed to walk into that, even though I can see the door to the mall. Only cars can go to that door to drop off. You can only be dropped off at the door and then enter. You cannot walk up to that door. You're not allowed because you need to go through a specific walking only entrance so they can x-ray scan you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to walk around almost this entire mall, which is it's the biggest mall in Jakarta. It's called the Grand Indonesia. And the first night, it's dark. I spend several minutes trying to get in, and I just go back because I was like, I don't.
Oh, no.
This entrance is car only. This entrance is car only.
Yeah.
And the
Can't
next
find a way
day when it's like sunny and stuff, I just got room service that night, which was also regrettable because it was too expensive and bad. Anyways, the reason I'm telling this story is this is all of Indonesia. It's just sidewalks end, or you exit an area and you're like, there's
or
a
at least
parking
all
lot
of
here.
Indonesia that you saw.
Well, I was going to say all of Jakarta at least.
Oh,
Right?
sorry, all of Jakarta. Yes.
Yeah, I was like Indonesia.
This is all of Jakarta.
Yeah.
And so the actual event, so you're like, Steve, why did you book this hotel? Is because Niantic put out a map and they're like, here are 8 places to play.
Mhm.
Like, here are the touristy places. So I picked my hotel in between like the 3 of the touristy places. And one of the places was a different mall, which was called Central Park Mall, which is funny because the park here in in Incheon is also called Central Park, but there's Central Park 1 and Central Park 2 here in Incheon. So Central Park Mall is one of the main places to play, which again was also very confusing. Because even my Uber driver, I remember I'm saying Uber, not Grab, couldn't figure out how to get into the mall. This guy lives in Jakarta and he drives Uber for a living. And I was like, Central Park Mall, please. And he was like, okay. And he couldn't figure out how to get into the mall. We just drove around the mall until eventually he figured it out. And then we dropped us off at you're only allowed for cars to drop off here. It was crazy. But the event ended up being at what was called the Pick. And they also built a new place called the Pick 2. And that was the northernmost part of, if you look at that event map of it. So every day I had to take, depending on traffic, if it was before 9 a.m., it was only 30 minutes. If it was any time after 9 a.m. and for the rest of the day, it took an hour. I had to take an Uber to that area because there's no public transportation in the city. I mean, there is, but it doesn't go anywhere. There's no public transportation in the city, and you can't walk anywhere. So you either have to Uber yourself a motorcycle, and I'm not bold enough to get on a motorcycle and weave in and out of multi-lane traffic, or a car, which is much slower. Granted, like literally every single Uber ride I took was like $10, just flat. Like almost all of them were like $10 or $5 or $6. So the Pick was another mall. Indonesia loves malls. Another mall, kind of small, but it had the store. So it had a whole merchandise store with exclusive Jakarta stuff. Very cool. Nothing like that in Incheon. No store at all. It had a TCG area where you could learn how to play the TCG. They had huge like TCG cards that they had like around like Yokohama for the World Championships. They had Terapagos and Pikachu meet and greet. I didn't even know that Terapagos was like a mascot figure with a person walking around. Yeah, like Terapagos came out. That was pretty cool. They had the anime playing. So when it wasn't a meet and greet, they just had the anime playing on that screen. They just had like a bunch of stuff. And then that mall, the Pick, had a shuttle bus that would then take you to Pick 2. So imagine it takes me an hour to get to the Pick. It takes another 30 minutes to get to the Pick 2. The Pick 2 is an outdoor area where they had an outdoor stage, and the Pick 2, which was kind of confusing, opened at like 2 p.m., even though the event started at 10. So you could like go there, but there was like nothing to do. But also, as a Pokemon Go player, it was the worst place ever to play Pokemon Go. And if you've been following my journey of Uber rides, even if you were staying at the Pick, if you're gonna put a half hour to get to the Pick 2, you want to do the stuff there, but then you're like, I want to play Pokemon Go, but it's like the worst place to play Pokemon Go. But if you're like, well, I want to leave to a better place to play Pokemon Go, that's a half hour.
Yeah.
And then like, but I want to go see something at the Pick 2, so that's a half hour back. So you're like in this really weird position. So the Pick 2 had a huge outdoor stage, and at like 2:00 was the Pikachu parade. So all these Pikachus came out and they like walked across the bridge, and then they walked to the stage, and like that was really cool. And then at like 2:30 was like the first performance, which was Pokemon Kids. It was a Pokemon Kids performance. So they did like the Poké Dance song, the like do 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 do. It was like a TikTok trend.
Okay.
And then they did like if you ever went to like the Pokemon Cafe, they do like a song there. It's like the Happy and You Know It song. So they did the Happy and You Know It song. They did the Poké Dance song. And then after that, this is where it gets cool. They brought out, anytime there's a performance, there's dancing Pikachus, to be fair. That's why it started off with the Pikachu parade, because the Pikachu parade had to get to the stage so then those Pikachus could perform. Duh. That's how it works.
As it works, yeah.
So after the Poké Dance of the Pikachu's performing and everything, then Hatsune Miku came out. Well, not really came out because she's not a real person. She's real to me, but she like appeared on screen. And then the Pikachus came out, and then they did like 5 Hatsune Miku songs. And I want to apologize to everyone for not covering the Hatsune Miku stuff, as we didn't do a very good job at covering it because I didn't really like care about it. I'm the biggest Hatsune Miku fan in the entire world now. I've never like really listened to those songs. They're so good. And when you're seeing them live with like dancers and Pikachu dancing and like human dancers and like the graphics in the background, like it's like 110 degrees outside and I'm watching a Hatsune Miku concert in Jakarta. It was like the coolest thing ever. I don't think the album is out yet, but I think there are 20 songs that she did so far. And I think they're doing a second album.
Jeez.
It was incredible. It was so good. Like the performance of the dancing, the music was super good, and then the video to like line up with the dance and the song, just like phenomenal. Because like every song was like her being a different character, like her being in Team Rocket gear for like the Team Rocket song.
So these were the Pokemon songs. These weren't just random Hatsune Miku songs. Okay.
She performed the 5 of her 20 Pokemon songs.
Okay, and they are good. All of I have been listening to the music videos and all of that. They're really good music.
They're so good. And like, even if you've never listened to Hatsune Miku, I am telling you to check this stuff out, because it is like she's mixing the like Game Boy sounds or like the red and blue like clicks. She's
they
like
probably played the most nostalgic ones.
I'm sure they
did.
Whatever they played. So there was like kind of no one there, and then like 10 minutes before Hatsune Miku came on, just all of these fans showed up, and it was very obvious they were Hatsune Miku fans because they were carrying Hatsune Miku plushes. They just showed up out of nowhere. And every time that she started a new song, they would lose their minds. They were so excited. And that's like infectious, right? Like they were like, I cannot believe she's playing this song. And it was like, I don't know what song this is, but it was so good. Anyways, those songs are incredible, and you should check them out. They are so Pokemon infused that you will definitely like understand.
It is so much better than the Pokemon 25 soundtrack. That wasn't even really Pokemon.
No.
The Hatsune Miku songs absolutely are. There are definitely, I think, a wide range of songs because they've released a lot of them at this point, but some of them really tug at the heartstrings and some of them are just really cool.
Yeah.
Some of the music videos even have English subtitles, though not all of them.
I promise you that I'm telling you all this for this to make sense at the end. So then after
hold on,
DJ,
I want to hold on, sorry. I want to back up a little bit because this all started off with like City Safari.
Yes.
Pokemon Go, City Safari. But like we're not talking City Safari anymore. We're talking Pikachu parades and we're talking concerts and things. We have left Pokemon Go and are somewhere else completely. And I understand that it was a collaboration because it was at the same time as this Pikachu in Jakarta event,
Pikachu's
right? Which is
Indonesian Journey is what it's called.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So okay, I'm just making sure we're all clear on like what's going on here. Like this is not Pokemon Go related completely.
So this is the weirdest part about this event is I will admit I was wrong. I thought this was like a Niantic Pokemon Go thing. And like part of that is because like who paid for my trip? It wasn't the Pokemon company, right? Like sometimes the Pokemon company pays for stuff, right? Like I just went out to that TCG preview thing in New York that was paid for by the Pokemon company. And Niantic paid for this. So in my mind, I'm going to Jakarta to play Pokemon Go and to cover Pokemon Go. And I think the biggest disservice is that to an American audience, or maybe like not an Indonesian audience, they advertise this, at least in the West, as like a Pokemon Go event, right? Like everything we saw about this was from Niantic or from the Pokemon Go team of like, come to Jakarta, play Pokemon Go. It's a city safari. We've had city safaris in Seoul and Mexico City and St. Louis and
it's an event.
Like, right? Yeah,
it's an event on their website on Pokemon Go Live. Like it's the city safari. You pay for the ticket through Pokemon Go Live. Like
and that event did exist, and there were definitely stops, and like I had like lunch and everything with Niantic, but like that was such a small part of like this entire event, whereas like I didn't know Hatsune Miku was performing. I didn't know DJ Pikachu was performing. I didn't know there was a drone show. I didn't know there was going to be 2 different merch stores, one at Pick and one at Pick 2. I didn't know there was a Pikachu parade. I knew there was a Pokemon Run thing, but like that sold out months ago. So in my head, I was like, I guess I'm not going to do the Pokemon Run because it already sold out. Like there were just so like it was a Pokemon event, and it's it's crazy to me that like in the West, they were just like, yeah, it's a Pokemon Go event.
Yeah, because usually Pokemon Go events are just Pokemon Go events. Or there is a Pokemon event, like Worlds, that has all of this stuff, but it's Worlds, so the Pokemon Go event is not the featured part, and it's not a ticketed Pokemon Go event or anything like that. This is some weird combination of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because unfortunately, like it's a weird time zone thing, so like not as many people who normally watch me are able to watch me because I'm literally streaming at like 4 a.m. most people's time. But everyone watching was like, why isn't Pokemon Go events like this? Like why like Go Fest or something? Like why
Right.
isn't there a concert where we could stop playing for an hour and watch if we wanted to? Why isn't there like a run? There was a whole 5K, and it's not the first time they've done this, because like Pikachu's Indonesian journey has been going on and off for like the last couple of years. Like they've had an event in Bali, and they've done, because like Indonesia is like an emerging market, so they're really trying to push that. But when you say like they're really trying to push an increase of like ultimately money to this country that involves tourism, so why wouldn't you advertise it that way, right? Like you could maybe have somebody who's very casual in Pokemon Go and be like, I like Pokemon Go, but not enough to fly to a different country. But if I was like, hey, it's not Pokemon Go, it's like a whole exclusive merch store. It is like a whole 5K that you can run. It is multiple concerts that are completely free. Like you don't have to pay. You didn't have to pay to get in to see DJ Pikachu or the drone show or the Pikachu parade. I mean, you had to commit like 30 minutes in an Uber to get there, but like,
yeah, I mean, as a Pokemon Go player, as someone who wasn't there or planning to go there, I would see the event and think, oh, I know what Pokemon Go events are generally like. Okay, that's fine. But this is so much more than that.
yeah, it was.
Yeah. But I'm sorry, I'm just looking because I was just Googled real quick like Pikachu's Indonesia journey to see like where this would even come up, and I will say props to the team that got flying-pikachu.com as a domain, because flying-pikachu.com takes you basically to Pikachu's Indonesia journey, and it's this whole thing, but it's not in English. So I mean, you can translate it to English, but it's just weird that there's no connection to that even on like Pokemon Go's website in any way to say like, hey, other than the little logo that says like this is a collaboration between these two things. That's so weird to me. Like there's so much to advertise here. There's so much marketing to do here.
Yeah, I obviously there's different teams, right? There's different Niantic teams. Like there's a Niantic person in charge of Mexico. There's a Niantic person in charge of the U.S., right? So same thing for Pokemon. Like the people in charge of Pokemon events in Japan are not the same people who are in charge of Pokemon events in the U.S. Not the same people who, like the person I work with in Pokemon doesn't work with like Joe Sarabee, right? Because the UK/Europe has their own Pokemon manager, right? I do wish there was like a little bit better advertising, because even as somebody who covers Pokemon news for a living, I was like, I didn't know that there would be like multiple concerts that were completely free. I just didn't know. They were so cool. So then after Hatsune Miku, DJ Pikachu came on, and it says like EDM show. I've never been to I know what an EDM show is. I've never been to an EDM show. And to have like 20 Pikachus on stage, one of them wearing sunglasses to signify that he is the DJ, and then having like lights and smoke and like actual like EDM Pokemon music happening was just so cool.
That's incredible. All of this is incredible.
It is. It really is.
I if you wanted to see it, like I streamed the whole thing. So I just put my camera on my little tripod and I just held it above everyone's head. So Twitch chat had like a way better view than I did, but like you can see how cool it is. I'll probably eventually move those to YouTube. But it was just like it was an amazing and incredible and just fantastic Pokemon event. It was a bad Go event, which is funny I'm saying that because people are like, you always say the Go events are good because Niantic pays for you. It was a bad Go event. Like, and I think like Niantic tried. I don't think like they purposely made it bad. I think that it's just hard. Like when I say like that pick 2 area where all the DJ stuff is and the drone show is, there's just nothing out there. It's just kind of a big field. And they decorated it like really nice. Not Niantic, but the Pokemon Indonesia decorated it super nicely. There was like Vivians hanging from
Randall's Island in New York was also just a big field.
Yeah. Well, but like there was like 3 gyms there and maybe like 10 Pokestops. And they were all lured up and everything, but it was in an H. Like it was like 2 long strips, and then in the center was just the bridge. So there wasn't a good loop you could do.
Yeah.
So you could like catch everything and then just kind of wait for things to respawn because it's not big enough to go far enough away. And then you're like, well, just go somewhere else. There's nothing around the pick two.
Right.
I was with Zoe Two Dots, and we had to walk 10 minutes over a bridge against 8 lanes of traffic to then get to another mall area, which is like a brand new mall area, which only had 1 gym and like 5 Pokestops because it was literally just developed.
Right.
And because Pokemon Go is based off cell phone traffic, people aren't going there enough to then make more Pokemon generate. So it was like, okay, we can leave this area and go get lunch, but there's nothing to do over here, and then come back.
Well, that's on the construction workers for not playing on the job, playing Pokemon Go on the job.
It's weird because like that area had so many photo opportunities, was super decorated, was so nice. It had the stages, and like there was really only 20 minutes of downtime between performances. So you didn't want to leave, but you also wanted to play Go, but it was a bad place to play Go. It was I know from talking to people that the other areas were not decorated, right? So on the map that Niantic set up, it was like, here are like 8 different places you can play, and one of them is the pick and the pick 2.
Right.
And those are the only 2 areas decorated. Both the pick and the pick 2 had stores that you could buy stuff. It was the same stuff at either store. But if you wanted to go to like Old Town, or you wanted to go to like Grand Central Mall, there were definitely players there. There were definitely, everything was lured up. There was definitely stops. There were the Eevee stops. There were plenty of spawns, but it wasn't decorated like anything else because it was a city experience.
So just to clarify, this was the first time that Niantic had done an event, a Pokemon Go event in Indonesia, correct?
No, they have done. They did a different Jakarta one, and I think they did 2 Bali ones. But it was always with Pikachu's Indonesia journey.
Oh, so this is the first time that they've done it collaborating with Pikachu's Indonesia journey.
Right, which is why I'm saying the confusing part is in the West, it's just always advertised as Pokemon Go, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah, I'm really curious if all of these have been
I was going to say, like, I was going to give the benefit of the doubt to, okay, Niantic is pushing into this other thing that's already happening, and their event just isn't as big as the other event, right? So they're just putting this smaller event within this bigger event, giving the benefit of the doubt to tried it for the first time, and that's how it worked. But this isn't the first time. it's like there's multiple chances here.
I don't think it's like specifically Niantic's fault because of how Jakarta is built. Like, right, like Pokemon Go is pretty unfair. We always talk about this, like, right? Like if you live in like Green Bay, Wisconsin, you're going to have a very different experience than somebody living in San Diego, California. Like it's the same game, it's the same country, but you're just going to have very different experiences. Like if I go to Japan, my Pokemon Go experience is just infinitely times better because Japan is so on top of each other. So there's so many people, so many stops, so many cell phones. Jakarta is so, there's a lot of people in Jakarta, right? There's a lot of people in Indonesia. But if you just want to like see it as like, I want to see the city, and I want to play Pokemon Go in different things, you're just like so gridlocked by traffic and no public transportation that you're like, it's not Niantic's fault, but it is a city experience, and I can't really see the city because it's so hard to like, do I want to spend 30 minutes to go here where I've never been? I don't know if it's actually going to be as good on paper to play versus where I am.
Sure. But Niantic is in control of the Pokestops. They're in control of the gyms. They're in control of adding all of that. They can add the spawns. They can decorate things. They can add things to the places that they're saying, hey, play here. Just because the new mall isn't developed or just got developed, and so there's like no stops, they can add things in there for events. So they can say like, we're giving you this city experience in Jakarta. They can add a bunch of stuff there to make it really lively and playable, and they can decorate the areas that they know people are going to be playing in, just like the Pokemon Company is decorating these areas for Pikachu's Indonesia journey. Niantic can also do that to make that experience its own thing as well. They're not constricted by, when you play in San Diego and you play in Green Bay, Niantic isn't adding anything extra there because it's just an average Tuesday in San Diego or Green Bay. But when there is an event in Jakarta, they can do whatever they want to make that event as populated or not populated as they want it to be.
We don't know what they can or cannot do.
But we've watched them add stops and add the EV stops that get added. They add all those things.
I did watch them add more gyms and stops to Madrid after the first day of seeing people complain that there was not enough in
happened.
Madrid.
Yep.
And they can, and if they've planned these things out and have had multiple times of doing these events in this place, I feel like they could have an idea of what to put in different places. I
do wonder if the reason, so the pick is a mall, and it's like 4 floors, and that's where the TCG stuff was, the anime stuff was, the store was, the photo opportunities. That mall was so small though that you would do a lap of that mall, and it doesn't matter what floor you're on because that's not how Pokemon doesn't scale upwards. But if you did a whole lap, it would not be enough time for things to respawn, right? Like, just using Mall of America for an example, if I walk around all of Mall of America, by the time I get back to where I started, it's been long enough where everything is going to be new again.
It's like 8 miles wide or something at Mall of America.
Right, but like if you go to like
I get it.
Like if I went to Central Park in Incheon and I walked that circle, it would be different by the time I'm done. And I think that's like where most Pokemon Go players are looking. I'm looking for a loop, or I'm looking for something. So the pick, there's just no way to do that, because once you get there, there's nothing outside the pick that you can walk to. There's just 20 lanes of traffic in front of the pick.
Right.
That like there's not even lines on the ground. There's just cars everywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I get it. I get that it's constricted by the way the city is, but they're going into the city and making an event. So like they can still do things to make the event more event-like. Like, even though the game has these things where you have to have spawn times of, I mean, some Pokemon spawn every 15 minutes, some spawn for 25, some spawn for 40. I mean, remember back in the day, there's different spawn times for Pokemon that spawn. It's not everything is exactly the same. They can add those things. They can change those things for an event for a few days when they know they're doing this, especially when the lead up to it is months in advance. It's not like they knew 3 weeks ago they were going to do an event in Jakarta. So they can change these things to make them work more.
If for the pick, and specifically the pick 2, where all the performances were, if they didn't want to make it that good of a place to play because there were other things to do. Like, we don't want all our Pokemon Go players to come out to pick 2 because this is a free event. So like, you just had to go through security to get in to see these concerts. So I do wonder if part of that is because when I went to Central Park Mall, not to be confused with Central Park in Incheon, when I went to Central Park Mall in Jakarta, there were tons of Pokemon Go players. It was very obvious they were playing there. The reason I didn't play there that long is because I didn't really have good reception there, and I did meet a bunch of like Indonesian people, and they were like, yeah, my reception kind of sucks today. And I was like, well, geez, if you live here and your reception sucks, like, that's not a good sign for me with a eSIM. But it was nice because it was air conditioning and it's very hot in Jakarta. But even when I like left that mall, I actually got yelled at by a security guard because I was like trying to get to an EV stop, and I was like, oh, okay, we have to go out here. There's like this bridge. It looks like it connects to another part of the mall. I think it was another part of the mall, but there was also apartments above it. But he was like, oh, no cameras. So he wouldn't let me cross the bridge, and I couldn't get to the EV, which is like fine, like totally cool. Like, anytime I'm on somebody else's property, mall or whatever, not public property, I should say, if you got to do what it's private property, right? They can tell you what to do. So I couldn't. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I can't cross this bridge to get to this EV stop. And again, going back to my earlier conversation, I couldn't figure out how to leave this mall to then walk to the EV stop. There's just no sidewalks anywhere. Like I got out there, and then I started panicking because like there were a couple Indonesian people in my chat, and they were like, "You're really close to other apartments," and I was like, and they were like, "Somebody might come up to you and yell at you because they said in Indonesia." No camcorders, no any filming near apartments are really
you're
strict
like a
on
human
that.
camera.
Yeah, I'm literally walking with multiple
phones.
cameras on me, which again makes sense because there's a lot of security checks in Indonesia. So now I'm like this is an apartment courtyard. I don't know if I should like go through here, but also I don't even know if there's a dead end at the end because I've been like there were many situations where I would just like start walking and it would just be a dead end. Like no sidewalk, all road, or just like so like I kind of explored all of Grand Central Mall and I ended up just like I just want to go back to the pick or I just want to go back to the pick 2 because one is like the pick was air conditioning, the pick 2 was not, but like I had such a good time at like the concerts and I was like, it's a good enough Pokemon Go experience. Like I am catching Pokemon, I am getting shinies. There are Latias raids. It's just not like a hardcore Pokemon Go experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. So I know I did say like the event was bad. I do think that if you only came to Jakarta only for Pokemon Go, I don't think it would have been the same experience as a Hoenn tour, Sinnoh tour, a Go Fest Madrid, Go Fest New York. It's not the same experience. And I think part of that is just because there were other Pokemon things to do, and I do think there was probably a balance of like the pick 2 and Pokemon Go at the same time of like we don't want all our players to come here, please play at other places, but also Jakarta just being a not walkable city, which again I do think is Niantic's fault to be like here's a city, but when I was talking to people who lived in Jakarta, they were like we don't have parks. Like even if Niantic wanted to do like a park experience, we don't have parks here. We have malls. And that's what they said to us. Like they were like, we just have malls.
Instead, is there a famous mall in the Pokemon world? They could have done the very first like mall experience and named it after some mall and done it that way instead.
But it would be weird if there was no Go experience. Just like I think it's weird if like a Worlds didn't have a Go experience.
But the Worlds Go experience is so not Go focused. It's there if you're there, and that's fine, and that's great. And
it's also everywhere. Like there's very few things that are specific to local when you're at Worlds.
Yeah.
In terms of Pokemon Go.
And not even Worlds, but like there have been events in the past where there has been an event and then there's a Go aspect to it. But it isn't focused on in the way that they focused on this one, at least here with Pokemon Go Live, having all the event information and going through there to buy the tickets and doing all of that. Like it was very much marketed as this is a Go event and hey, it's alongside this other event that's going on. Where in reality, it was this event that's this Pokemon event that's going on, and there is a Go aspect to it.
Yes.
Seems more of what it was.
But okay, so I think overall, I had a great time, a fantastic time, honestly. I think I was able to do the 5K. Niantic did get me into the 5K, and I did run a 5K. Mostly walked it, but I would never shame like anyone who completes a 5K. I would never shame anyone for walking it. Like it's a huge accomplishment. It was like 1,000,000 degrees, and I was trying to do it with a giant backpack on. But I had such a fantastic time doing physical workout.
It was early too, right?
Yeah. It started at 6 a.m. So I woke up at 4 a.m. because I had to plan my 45. Well, you wanted to get it before the heat came out, right?
Yeah.
Before the sun,
yeah.
actually.
Okay, that makes sense.
I had a fantastic time with the 5K, fantastic time with the show. I genuinely like don't regret the experience. And I do I would like to see more of this from the Pokemon company, of like, instead of just going to New York to play Pokemon Go for 3 days, which hardcore people would love to do that, right? They want to put their head down. They want to get as many shinies as possible. I'm just not there in life anymore. Like, I love Pokemon Go. I love going to these events. I don't need to like grind out 8 hours straight for 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
But I do think there is value, or possibly a future where US or European, or I think kind of already happens in Japan, but these events are just more than Pokemon Go. It would be nice to be like, oh, there's going to be a drone show tonight, or there's going to be a concert on Saturday, so I can take an hour break from Pokemon Go to see this concert.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we can just compare it directly to like Randall's Island, also a hassle to get to, also very hot. When you get there, you're kind of like, I'm not leaving because it's such a hassle to get here. So I'm going to play. And then the next day, I'm not going back because it was such a hassle to get there. That's kind of how I felt here in Jakarta. It's just like, I don't know if I should go there. It's 45 minutes to get there, and then I have to get back here. That's another 45 minutes. So there are definitely some cities, some countries that have good public transportation that is easier to get around. I mean, Jakarta was not one of them.
New York City, famous for their public transportation,
not to
but
Randall's
they put
Island.
it on Randall's Island. It's a little bit of a different
where
situation.
Niantic specifically worked with the city of New York to say no Ubers allowed here. And then there was like a bus accident, which like messed up that part of it.
Yep.
Oh, geez.
Anyways, fantastic event. I am sure there are Pokemon Go players that only came here for Pokemon Go and probably had an amazing time. I think once I saw there was more Pokemon stuff, I gravitated to that more.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's like a bad thing. There's debate whether Niantic did or did not do the right thing of spawns or not spawns, or what they were restricted to with the city. There's also like safety to keep in mind that we didn't touch on, of like, maybe we should keep things condensed here so people aren't trying to walk across 8 lanes of unmarked traffic.
Right. Well, I guess that goes into what I was saying about, so I guess maybe I didn't really touch on it, but when you were talking about how there were so many different areas you could go to play the city safari, it just feels like maybe that wasn't a good idea. Like, maybe it should have been constricted to like 2 places. Maybe it should have been constricted
Maybe this
to the
should have been a
places where
safari zone instead of a city safari.
Yeah, or if there aren't parks there to play in, some other type of experience that, you know, that could have been just constricted to like maybe the 2 malls or something like that, or something in that way.
Maybe make the argument that like, well, you can play anywhere in Jakarta, so you don't feel like you need to drive 45 minutes somewhere to play. You could just play in your neighborhood or something.
Yeah, but if you're flying all the way there anyways, 45 minutes to the event, like it's an extra 45 minutes to the event.
I'm just thinking of like people who live in Indonesia.
Sure.
I don't think,
of course.
This is me speculating, I don't know. I don't think this event from the Pokemon Go side did very well. And the reason I'm speculating that is because Niantic discounted the tickets 30% in the app. And I've never seen them discount Pokemon Go tickets. Not only that, is if you bought 5 or more tickets, I think, maybe it was 6 or more. Like if you bought like for your family, it was discounted 50% in the app. Wow. And they were advertising it at the pick. They had like little like flyers of like the map and like what it was not in English.
That makes some sense. Yeah, especially it not being in English. That's for people who are there with their families for the rest of the Pokemon event.
Yeah. Yeah. And it like, I don't know the economy of Indonesia very well. The dollar is incredibly strong in Indonesia. So like for me, taking an Uber was incredibly cheap. I don't know for an Indonesian person how expensive that is. Like I don't know what their rupiah is the currency. Like I don't know what the hourly rupiah wage is, right? Like so like for the US, I think the ticket was like $12. And so 30% off would be like what, like $8 or $9. So like to me, $10 for casual Pokemon Go for 2 days, super good price. For a family, 50% off. I don't know. Like I just don't know. I don't know other people's budgets, but like I've never seen another Pokemon Go event discounted before. So I don't think it was doing very well to the lead up. But I don't know. That's like a different conversation, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if that's because it wasn't doing well or it's because of economy stuff.
Right. I was going to say, have you
yeah.
been to another Pokemon? You haven't been to one of the other Pokemon Go events in Indonesia, right? This was your first Indonesia one?
Yeah, this is the first time in Indonesia.
Could be could be the area. Could be the way that it works.
Yeah. Okay, so Go Safari has started here in Incheon, final day. I have a lot of thoughts about this one too, but we're running over. But it is different. It is restricted to a park. There is no merch store. There is no DJ Pikachu. There is no EDM show. There is no drone show. It is a very traditional Pokemon Go experience. So we'll probably talk about that one when I get back. I want to end on
city
this
experience though, real quick. There's a city experience for it as well, right?
So you pick one day for the park, and then anywhere in Incheon, just like anywhere in Jakarta, you can play the other 2 days. This was a 3-day event. Jakarta was a 2-day event. Okay. I want to end on this. I found my new favorite fast food restaurant in the entire world. It is called Shake Shake in a Tub. It is a Singaporean restaurant. Absolutely fantastic. So good. It's like chicken and fries that they put in a tub, and then they shake like a seasoning on it.
Yes.
Got it.
And it was
sounds great.
Phenomenal. So good. I went to it 3 days in a row. It was in the mall. It was in the Grand Indonesian Mall. It was so good. I applaud myself for trying something new. Also, my favorite fast food restaurant of all time. I will come back to Indonesia just for Shake Shake in a Tub, or just go to Singapore because it's a Singaporean restaurant.
When Steve tries something new, he really goes all in if it's decent. Like this is the same thing with Pepper Lunch. Like you went to Pepper. I recommended you go to Pepper Lunch when you were in Japan, and you went, and then it's like every time you are anywhere near Japan, you somehow end up at a Pepper Lunch, or like when you came out here to California, we ended up at Pepper Lunch.
I went to Pepper Lunch. Yeah. Also, there's a Pepper Lunch in Incheon's airport, and I went to that too.
When you recognize a place and you know you like the food.
Hey,
it's
all
fair.
I'm saying is there are 5 Pepper Lunches opening in around San Diego in the next year. So you have to come back to San Diego to go to these Pepper Lunch locations.
I will. I think Anaheim is at least for sure on the future docket.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go play the last day of Safari Zone and then fly back to the United States. So we're probably a bunch of Pokemon news we missed because I've been traveling. I think we covered the Jakarta event pretty well. Not too much to cover for the Incheon event, but I do have thoughts on it. So we'll talk about that next week. And I'm sure there'll be more Pokemon Go news we can rope in. But thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Bobby. We will see you guys next week. This has been another episode of the Pokemon Podcast, and we are
super effective.
Super. Going to listen to the Vocaloid Pokemon songs now because I'm not fully caught up, and now I want to be. And I can't listen to the Pokemon Sleep songs on Spotify because I don't have Spotify. And I'm not going to get Spotify.
Sad. Sad.
Somebody put them on YouTube.
Yep.